Made with spoken. Rift Rangers, Volume 1, by DM KRULICKI. Digital narration performed by the Klondike players. The shuttle hummed, a dull vibration running through the deck plates. The air was close, metallic, the faint hiss of circulation a reminder of how confined the space really was. Michelle sat shackled to the chair, her wrists bound, ankles locked, hood discarded, and slouched around her shoulders like a funeral shroud. Her hair clung to her temples, dried flecks of blood painting her face and neck like the trophies of violence. She stared at the floor, her breath shallow, her body slack, yet her stillness radiated menace. David sat across from her, elbows on his knees, palms pressed hard into his face. He dragged his hands down, rough against stubble, and exhaled through his nose. He didn't look at the four. He looked at her. This woman. This murder. The shadow of his past.
How?
His voice cracked before he steadied it, low, almost a growl.
How can you look like her? Every damn detail, the same nose, the same little scar under your lip.
His jaw clenched.
But you're not her. You can't be.
Michelle didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. He leaned forward, desperate, broken, his voice gaining heat.
The Michelle I knew wouldn't. She wouldn't slit throats for fun. She wouldn't.
He swallowed hard, biting off the words.
She wouldn't look like this, like she's already dead inside.
Silence swallowed his words. The engines hummed. The chains at her wrist rattled faintly as she shifted. Still, no reply. Around the corner, unseen, Jojo lingered, her wide eyes fixed on David, drinking in his posture, his voice, his pain. Her chest tightened like a vice. She knew that look, that raw ache. He wanted her, the idea of her at least, back. And no matter what Jojo did, she'd never be that. She pressed a hand over her own mouth, stifling the sound that threatened to escape, and slipped away down the corridor, toward the bridge. David's hand twitched against his thigh. His gaze drifted again, almost involuntarily, to the locked cabinet on the far wall, the cabinet where the Chrono-Cloak sat hidden away. His throat tightened.
It's right there. I could take it. I could leave. I could go back. Back to her. Back to something normal. I could even bring this one with me. Save her. Save us both.
His jaw worked, grinding against the thought, against the ache clawing at him. Michelle lifted her head at last, slowly, deliberately. Her eyes locked onto his, and for the first time since she was chained down, she saw the war inside him, saw the flicker of longing he tried to bury, saw the weakness, and she understood. Her lips parted, cracked from dehydration, but her voice carried something else, something soft, something practiced. Something that hit him like a blade between ribs.
David.
The words stopped him, soft, intentional. He lingered at the door, hand brushing the frame, unwilling to look back, yet unable to walk away. Michelle leaned forward from the shadows, voice low and careful.
You don't have to keep pretending you're sure of this.
David turned slowly. Her eyes caught the dim light, steady on him. Not cold, not mocking, but searching. He hated how familiar it felt. She tilted her head toward the far cabinet, where the Chrono-Cloak rested in its containment field.
I saw you looking. You're thinking about it, aren't you?
Her lips curved in the faintest smile.
Of course you are. Who wouldn't? A way out. A way home.
His throat tightened.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I do.
She rose from the cot, moving closer to the energy bars that separated them. The subtle sway of her hips wasn't an accident, nor the way her fingers brushed the metal, as if tracing him through.
You think you're hiding it from them, from your crew. But I see it. The conflict. The hesitation.
Conflict doesn't mean weakness.
Doesn't it?
She asked softly, leaning close enough that her breath fogged against the barrier.
You want to run, David. To tear it all down and go back to simple, back to us.
He swallowed hard, pulse quickening at the word. Us. It wasn't his Michelle. It couldn't be. But the cadence, the warmth, she knew exactly how to slip past his guard.
There was never an us,
he muttered, though it came out thin. Michelle's smile deepened, not cruel, but coaxing.
Not here, not now, but somewhere. When? Don't you feel it? That pull? We don't meet like this by accident.
Her fingers slipped lower along the barrier, tracing an invisible line toward the cloak's containment cabinet.
We could take it. Together. Leave this mess of rules and watchers and pirates. Go back to something real, something normal. Haven't you wanted that more than anything?
David's chest tightened. For a heartbeat, he let himself picture it. No tribunal, no fractured timelines. Just him, her, the cloak, and a chance to vanish into a simpler world. Michelle saw the flicker in his eyes. She pressed closer, lowering her voice to a near whisper. Velvet smooth.
You don't have to be their savior. You don't have to keep fighting for them. You can choose me. Choose us. One step, one hand on that cloak, and everything changes.
His fingers twitched at his side. He hated himself for wanting to believe her, for wanting the weight to slide off his shoulders and into the past. And Michelle, sharp as ever, let the silence hang just long enough before she added the final twist of the knife.
It's not betrayal, David, it's freedom.
The bridge of the pirate shuttlecraft reeked of blood from the captain's previous tirade, tension hanging in the air like static. Krill stalked back and forth, boots pounding against the grated floor. His tusked jaw clenched, nostrils flaring with every breath.
Where the fuck is the captain?
He roared, spit flying as his voice rattled the overhead beams. The sensor crew bent low over their consoles, hands trembling against the glowing interfaces. One dared to answer without lifting his eyes.
Sir, we lost her at the market. The surface scramblers are active. Tracking is nearly impossible.
Krill's eyes bulged. He seized the nearest ration container and hurled it across the bridge. It shattered against the bulkhead with a metallic crack, spraying fragments across the deck. Crew members flinched, shoulders hunching, faces pale.
Fuck!
His chest heaved, rage swallowing reason. For a long, terrifying moment, he just stood there, fists trembling, breath ragged. Then his voice dropped, low and venomous.
You search for 10 more fucking minutes, if you haven't found a trace by then.
He leaned over the nearest console, his tusks inches from the crewman's face.
We leave.
A ripple of dread coursed through the crew. They exchanged worried glances, every one of them thinking the same thing. If they left the captain behind, and she somehow survived, their lives would be forfeit. Yet staying risked the Baron's wrath, and that might be worse. The minutes ticked by, agonizingly slow. The only sounds were the steady blip, blip, blip of the scanners, and the faint mechanical clatter of the ship's chronometer. Sweat dripped. Hands shook. No trace. Finally, the main screen pulsed with static. Negative. Empty. Krill's jaw tightened. He straightened, shoulders rolling back, and spoke with cold finality.
Fuck it, let's go.
The words landed heavier than a gunshot. No turning back. No rescue. Krill sank into the captain's chair as the ship rumbled beneath him, engines spooling. His claws dug into the armrests as he thought ahead. About the Baron, about the failure he had to confess, about how slim his chances of survival would be.
I'll tell him the truth. I'll swear my loyalty. I'll promise to retrieve the cloak. Somehow, I'll make this right.
But deep down, even Krill knew failure in this game was rarely forgiven. The ship tore away from orbit, leaving its captain and the last shred of its honor behind. The IPC shuttle locked into the docking clamps of their main craft with a heavy thud, pressure seals hissing as the corridor bridge extended. The team moved briskly, the cramped air replaced by the broader breadth of their jump ship. Mal was first, broad and steady, carrying the artifact case as if it weighed 100 kilos. His expression was granite, unreadable, though his eyes tracked everything. Behind him, Sarah and Nine each had a grip on Michelle's arms. The restrained pirate captain shuffled forward in silence. Chains rattled against her shackles, echoing down a metal corridor. She gave no resistance, no words, her face an unreadable mask, until they entered the brig. With a hiss, the door slid open. The cell lights flicked to life with a sterile buzz. Michelle flinched, head bowing, squinting until her eyes adjusted. The cot sat flush against the wall, the floor stark and clean, too clinical for a murderer, too merciful for a pirate. Sarah shoved her gently, and she staggered inside. Nine keyed the restraints loose, the cuffs clattering to the floor before he stepped back. Michelle flexed her wrists, rolled her shoulders, and eased herself onto the cot. The door slammed shut with a low clunk, the electric lock engaging, sealing her in. David lingered in the hall just beyond the glow, his silhouette framed by the cell's light. His gaze lingered, drinking her in now that the shadows were gone. The blood, the grime, they didn't hide her, they revealed her. She was still Michelle. The same eyes, the same curve of her cheek. For one breathless moment, she was exactly as he remembered. Jojo stood just behind him in the dark, her fists curling at her sides. Her teeth clenched.
That's not her. That's not her. Open your eyes, you stupid ass. You're staring at a murderer, not your high school sweetheart.
But the words stayed locked in her chest, burning her throat. She wanted to spit them out, to shove him away from the cell and scream at him. Instead, she bit her lip hard enough to taste copper. David finally turned, his voice tight but calm.
Mal, let me know where you put the artifact later. I just want to make sure it stays put while in transit.
Mal stopped, his tall frame casting a shadow across the corridor. One brow rose slowly. Why? David shifted, his tone too casual.
Well, if anything happens, like she escapes or we get boarded, I need to know what to protect and where.
The silence that followed was heavier than the lock on Michelle's cell. Jojo's eyes flicked to Mal. Mal's gaze flicked to her. Neither spoke, but both thought the same thing. He's looking at her too long. He's thinking too hard about that cloak. Mal's jaw flexed. He gave a curt nod, saying nothing more, and disappeared down the hall with the case. Jojo stayed where she was, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. Her eyes lingered on David's back as he stood rooted in place, staring at the cell like he couldn't pull himself away. She swallowed.
I need to talk to Mal, now, before this gets out of hand.
The corridor lights hummed low, stretching shadows along the walls. Jojo darted after Mal, her flip-flops in hand, bare feet whispering against the cold deck plates as she padded quickly for.
Mal.
Her voice echoed off the metal. He turned, towering in the glow of the forward station.
What is it now, cadet?
His tone carried the bite of annoyance. Jojo stopped short, her chest rising and falling.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Mal tilted his head, arms crossing.
Clarify.
He's flustered, conflicted. I feel it in him.
Her words tumbled out fast, urgent.
Like this weird connection, you know? Like a kid about to steal a cookie from the jar the second mom turns her back.
Mal's eyes narrowed.
That's a rather specific example, Jet. Get to the point.
Jojo's grip tightened around her sandals.
Look, it's obvious he thinks she's someone else. Someone from his past or his timeline, whatever. He can't think straight. You saw it. He won't take his eyes off her or the artifact. I think...
She swallowed, her voice dropping.
I think he's gonna pull the chute and go.
Mal's nostrils flared. His voice snapped back, sharp as a whip.
Forget, Jet. How can you speak of your captain this way? This is insubordination at its peak. I have every right to write you up here and now.
Jojo's stomach sank, but she held her ground. Then Mal's expression shifted, iron softening just enough.
But...
His arms dropped to his sides.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Jojo blinked.
You seem to have a kinship with your fellow Terran. Use it. Talk to him. See if you can reason with him, respectfully. He is still the captain of this team, although I fear.
Mal's voice slowed, his gaze drifting toward the brig corridor.
He is losing sight of his role here in this moment. We need to get back to IPC and the Helix as fast as we can before.
A sound sliced through his words. Clunk. The unmistakable electric groan of a brig door mechanism. Now froze. His eyes widened, face draining of its controlled calm.
Shit!
Both spun on their heels and sprinted down the corridor, Jojo's feet slapping against the steel, Mal's heavier stride pounding beside her. The alarm hadn't sounded. No flashing lights, no klaxon, just that one sound, the sound no one wanted to hear. The brig was opening. The jump ship's control deck glowed with the cold light of navigation charts, the hum of engines vibrating up through the consoles. Sarah lounged in her chair, long legs stretched out and crossed casually, boots propped on the control panel. Her eyes half-lidded, but always sharp, always calculating. Beside her, Zilch hunched forward, spindly fingers flicking across the controls, his gills fluttering faintly with concentration. Streams of telemetry data scrolled across the displays, the ship plodding its way through a delicate gauntlet of waypoints. Miles' warning still hung in the air. Get us back to the Helix as fast as possible. Be ready for anything. And so, Zilch had mapped a course, 3 amplification junctions strung in sequence, each one a gravity well waiting to be bent and stolen from, catapulting them forward like a slingshot. The ship shuddered gently with the first swing, a deep rumble of pressure as the gravity bite released and sent them speeding on. Neither spoke. Sarah rode the lurch like it was nothing, leaning back, her face lit by the shifting glow of the star screen. Her jet-black hair fell to one side, shaved close on the other, emphasizing the sharp lines of her cheekbones. She looked every inch the Predator, poised, aloof, untouchable. Zilch tried not to stare. He failed miserably. His eyes lingered on the curve of her jaw, the fall of her hair, the stillness she wore like a weapon. His chest fluttered, and he sighed without meaning to, sinking deeper into the chair. She knew. Of course she knew. But Sarah didn't move, didn't call him out. Let him look. Let him drown in her. If it fed his little obsession and stroked her ego, fine, she could use that. And, truth be told, it wasn't the worst attention she'd had. The ship lurched again, a heavier shiver as they rounded the second gravity well. Zilch gripped the console, eyes darting back to his work, pretending to monitor the data stream. Lines of code blinked red, then green. Telemetry shifted. They were close. Zilch cleared his throat, voice softer than usual, tinged with disappointment.
Looks like we're pulling into the proverbial driveway.
Sarah turned her head slowly, catching him in the act, his eyes still flicking toward her before guiltily snapping down to the readouts. He fiddled with switches that didn't need fiddling, clearing his gills like a nervous tick. Her lips curled into the faintest grin. Not mockery, not kindness, just pure, quiet amusement.
Caught you, little dork.
Zilch tried not to stare, but Sarah made it impossible. She moved like everything was calculated, like the tilt of her head and the lazy sweep of her hand were just as lethal as her blade work.
You're distracted,
She said, not looking at him, as she adjusted the strap on her gauntlet. Her voice carried that cool, amused edge that made his throat dry.
No.
Zilch stammered, shifting his weight as if he could disguise the way his eyes had just tracked the line of her shoulders.
Just processing.
She turned slowly, deliberately, to face him, one eyebrow arched.
Processing me? Or processing the captain's latest lapse in judgment?
Zilch's gills fluttered, betraying him.
The latter, obviously.
Sarah stepped closer, the faintest smirk curling her lips.
Obviously.
She circled the table between them, fingertips grazing its edge as she moved. Not a seduction, just casual grace. But to Zilch it was magnetic. His eyes followed her hand like it was tethered to him. She noticed. Of course she noticed.
You're wondering if he'll crack.
She said, voice dropping into something serious again.
If the prisoner will break him before the Watchers do.
Zilch coughed, trying to focus.
It's possible. The captain carries too much inside, and she knows how to use it against him.
Sarah stopped, just short of him, leaning her weight onto one hip, studying his face.
And you? What do you carry inside, Zilch?
He blinked, heat rising under his amphibian skin.
What? That's irrelevant.
Her smile sharpened.
So defensive.
She pivoted, turning away, her hair sliding down her back. She wasn't trying to tease, but she didn't need to. Her presence alone was a weapon. Zilch swallowed hard.
I mean, of course I worry about the captain. About all of us.
Sarah murmured, examining the blade she pulled from her belt as though it were far more interesting than him.
All of us. Admirable. And yet, your eyes are not on your captain right now, are they?
He flustered, gills fluttering again.
That's completely out of context.
Is it?
She glanced over her shoulder, her gaze sharp enough to pin him in place.
Relax. I don't mind being admired. But you should learn to hide it better.
Zilch's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. No words came. Sarah slid the blade back into its sheath, and finally, mercifully, let him off the hook with a wry grin.
Don't faint, Zilch. I might actually need you conscious if the captain does something foolish.
He exhaled, shoulders slumping, and muttered,
You're impossible.
She crossed back to him, close enough that he caught the faint scent of metal and ozone from her armor. Her expression softened just enough to twist the knife deeper.
No, Zilch. I'm inevitable.
Zilch was still flushed, his gills flickering, when Sarah leaned against the bulkhead and folded her arms. Her eyes stayed on him, sharper now, less amused.
Tell me something. Why do you call that ridiculous sack mother?
Zilch stiffened, his gaze darting to the patched satchel propped against the far chair. His fingers twitched as though to shield it.
That's not for conversation.
Sarah tilted her head, tone dry but probing.
You drag it everywhere. You hiss if anyone touches it. You talk to it, Zilch. So humor me. Why, mother?
He tried to deflect with a nervous chuckle, then saw the glint in her eye. She wasn't teasing now. He sighed, shoulders sagging.
You really want to know?
Yes?
She said simply. For once, he didn't fidget, didn't babble. His voice was low, flat.
Because my mother never let me forget it was my job to hold everything together. To carry her when she couldn't carry herself. She leaned on me, nagged me, drained me. And I let her. It was always my burden.
Sarah's smirk faded. She stayed silent, watching him.
She died before I could tell her no. Before I could stand up to her. Before I could say I was tired of being her crutch.
His throat bobbed, the words rough in his mouth. He gestured toward the satchel.
So I put her ashes inside, bound them into the fabric. Now she carries me, my food, my tools, my necessities, every burden. She doesn't get to rest. Not now, not ever.
He exhaled shakily, eyes fixed on the bag.
It's her penance, eternity to carry the son she once crushed.
Silence stretched. Sarah's usual sharp retorts caught in her throat. She studied him with something unreadable, something softer than she ever let show. Finally, she said, quieter than he'd ever heard her.
That's cruel.
Zilch's mouth twitched in a hollow half-smile.
Maybe, but it's the only way she ever learned to carry her share.
Sarah's gaze lingered, the assassin mask slipping just a fraction.
You're not as simple as you look, Zilch.
He dared to glance at her, gills flaring faintly.
Neither are you.
For a long moment, neither of them looked away. She leaned back, stretching her arms lazily behind her head, letting herself reflect in the silence. Zilch sat back, almost trembling with how much he'd just let out. His gills fluttered, his skin dimming back toward neutral as the silence stretched. He dared to glance at her.
What about you, Sarah? What was your?
Her eyes snapped to his. She didn't move for several long beats, just stared into him. So sharp he thought she might actually cut him open with her gaze. Then she leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees, her face level with his.
Fuck off.
She said evenly. No bite in it, just truth.
And don't ever ask me that again.
Then, almost cruelly, she smiled. Polite, controlled, like it was nothing. She leaned back in her chair, folding her arms again. Zilch's eyes dropped to the table.
Yes. Of course. Sorry.
His voice was small, frayed at the edges. The silence returned, heavier this time. Sarah stood in one fluid motion, boots striking the deck as she made for the exit. She passed him without a glance, the assassin's mask perfectly in place again. But then she stopped. Zilch still sat hunched, head bowed, shoulders tight. He looked less like the awkward amphibian mechanic and more like a boy who'd just bared himself and been left raw. Sarah's jaw clenched. She turned, bent quickly, and pressed a kiss to the crown of his head. A fleeting brush of warmth, gone before he could lift his eyes. Then she straightened and walked out, pace brisk, never looking back. Zilch froze. His skin began to ripple, colors bleeding across his flesh. Soft violets, blushing golds, shimmering greens. It was instinct, a natural warning display of his people's biology. But here, now, the colors pulsed in quick, uneven bursts. Not warning, not fear. Butterflies. He touched the top of his head where her lips had been, and the colors deepened, betraying him to the empty room. The final junction blinked on the chart ahead. Home was near. The brig door whispered shut behind them. No alarms, no witnesses, just David and Michelle. No one would ever know what passed between them in that cell, what words, what promises, what ghosts of old love were stirred. But when David emerged, he held her hand. Her hand. He shuddered at the softness of it, the warmth. It didn't matter that it belonged to a pirate, a killer, a stranger wrapped in the shell's skin. To him, in that moment, it was her. He tightened his grip.
Come on, this way.
His voice was hushed, urgent. Michelle let him tug her forward, her chains left behind, her smile hidden in the shadow of her hair. Inwardly, she grinned.
Pathetic. He actually believes it. Let him believe it. His weakness is my weapon.
They hurried down the corridor, David's boots pounding, Michelle's steps gliding behind him. He was muttering under his breath, to her, to himself, as if he were already halfway gone.
I'll get us out of here. Back to a place we both belong. I'm ready to go home.
Her smile widened. She didn't even need to answer. They reached the weapons crib. David's code hissed the lock open, the doors sliding aside in a swift rush of air. David slammed chest first into an unmovable wall. No, not a wall. 9. The enforcer loomed, massive frame filling the doorway, eyes glowing faint red with slow, disapproving heat. His synthetic musculature flexed, immovable, unshakable. David stumbled back, clutching his chest.
Fuck. Ow.
9 looked down at him, not a word, just the heavy weight of disappointment, radiating off him like heat from a forge. His scanner's word, his frame didn't budge an inch. Soon, the thunder of footsteps. Mal. Jojo. They skidded into the corridor, breathless, just in time to see the scene laid bare. David clutching Michelle's hand, dragging her straight toward the weapons crib. The captain. Their captain. Mal froze, his tall frame rigid, face stone but eyes burning. Jojo stopped beside him, but her whole body shook. Her chest rose and fell, shallow and fast. Her eyes, wide, wet, glistening in the light, fixed on David, and David alone. The sight cut her deeper than any blade. There he was, the man she adored, the man she followed across stars, the man she defended even when Mal doubted him, standing with her, with that murderer, about to throw it all away. Her lips trembled, parted, but no sound came. Only the trembling breath of a heart cracking in her chest. David looked from Nine's unyielding stare, to Mal's steeled eyes, then to Michelle's sly smirk at his side, and last, to Jojo, her eyes like a wounded kitten, her lips shaking, her whole body screaming, "Don't leave me." And for one suspended, agonizing second, David felt the weight of all their judgment pressing down on him. Mal didn't waste a word. His hand shot out like a steel trap, seizing Michelle's wrist in one crushing grip. She snarled, twisting, but the Varelian giant didn't even break stride. He yanked her forward, dragging her down the corridor as though she weighed nothing, her boots scraping against the floor. "Move," he barked. But it wasn't a command. It was inevitability. Michelle stumbled, nearly fell, but Mal didn't slow. He wasn't escorting her. He was hauling her back to the brig like a sack of refuse. Her grin was gone now, her breath short, as she half ran, half dangled at his side, until the cell swallowed her whole again, with a final clunk. Nine turned without word, the weapons crib hissing shut behind him. His heavy footsteps thudded away down the corridor toward the bridge, leaving silence in his wake. David turned. Jojo had moved. She stood frozen in the dim light, her eyes wide, glassy with tears, her lips trembling as if holding back everything all at once.
"Oh, Jojo, it's not what you—"
Her hand cracked across his face, so hard the sound echoed down the steel corridor. His head snapped to the side, cheek blazing red. David staggered, stunned. He hadn't been slapped like that since, hell, he couldn't even remember. Rift haze blurred everything, but damn, she had a left hook. Before he could even breathe. Smack! Another slap, the other cheek this time. His head whipped, his jaw aching.
"Jojo."
Her fist balled and slammed against his chest, right over his heart. Hard. David didn't move. Didn't raise a hand. Didn't defend himself. He just stood there and took it, staring at her in dumbfounded silence as her tears streaked down her flushed cheeks.
"So what?"
She shouted, her voice breaking.
"You were just going to leave us? Leave me? Just run off without a word? With her?"
Another pounding strike to his chest.
"She isn't your love toy. She isn't your Michelle or your whatever."
Her voice rose, ragged, shaking.
"She's a murderous bitch. Not from your timeline. She isn't the one who loved you."
Her tears spilled faster now, her whole body trembling with fury and grief.
"And what's worse?"
Her voice cracked, raw and broken.
"You were going to leave me. Why? Why, goddammit?"
Her hand pressed flat against his chest one last time, this time softer, but shaking.
"I need you. We need you. Don't you dare ever leave me, Klondike. You hear me?"
Her words tore out of her, shredding her throat, raw with everything she had been holding back. David's lips parted, but no words came. His chest heaved. His face burned from her slaps, but inside he burned even worse, with shame, with failure.
"I'm not cut out for this shit,"
he thought.
"I failed her. I failed them. I just want to go home."
Jojo's hand fell away. She staggered back a step, staring at him with blazing eyes one moment, then turned on her heel. Her feet slapped against the deck. 1 step, 2, 3, 4. Her stride quickened, turning into a trot, then a run. She was gone. David stood alone in the corridor, the echo of her footsteps fading. The silence swallowed him. He dragged a hand over his burning cheek, but it didn't sting half as much as her words. He hung his head, wallowing in the pit that always seemed to follow him, alone. The Helix trial chamber was neither court nor prison, but something far older and more unyielding. The platform beneath David's boots seemed carved from light itself, suspended in the infinite black. Above and around, the watchers loomed, gray, featureless projections, their voices layered in chorus, mechanical, whispering, thunderous.
Captain David Klondike of Terra. You broke IPC protocol. You endangered timelines. You disobeyed command. For this, you will answer.
The charges rattled through him like drumfire. His team sat beyond the translucent wall, silent witnesses. Mal like a stone idol, Sarah tapping a finger against her arm in boredom, Nine recording every flicker, Jojo perched forward on the edge of her seat, eyes locked on him, unblinking. The watchers raised their hands and the chamber lit with flickering potential future and past visions. David's father, alive and sneering at him.
You're no son of mine.
Brian not dead, but gone, married, a stranger who never knew his little brother. Michelle, alive in some timelines, dead in others, in one never meeting him at all. Whole cities burning, others never built, rivers dried, and oceans poisoned. Worlds unrecognizable, futures erased.
You may leave us. You may choose a time and place to return, but nothing will be as you remember. Every departure costs reality its shape. Until the rifts are sealed, your home no longer exists.
David's throat tightened. For a moment he imagined walking out, back to the woods of hope, back to Kelly the dog, back to his mobile home on the edge of town. But the hollow flickers showed it clearly. He could go back, but the world waiting would not be his.
The punishment is paradox. You are sentenced to continue. Repair what was broken, one soul a year. If at its end, you still demand release, you will have it. This is justice. How do you respond?
The glyph appeared in the air, 1 year, glowing like a brand. David looked down at his boots. For the first time he felt the full weight of command pressing on his chest. Not the IPC, not the Watchers, not the mission, but the faces of the team who had followed him into the fire. He lifted his head. His voice cracked once, then steadied, carrying across the chamber like a strike of iron.
You want a confession? Fine, I failed. I failed this mission. I failed the protocols you hammered into me. But worst of all, I failed them.
He pointed through the barrier at his team.
They trusted me. They followed me into chaos, into danger, into battles none of us were ready for. They looked to me for direction and I let them stumble into a storm I didn't fully understand. That failure is mine to carry alone, and mine alone to correct.
His voice rose, gathering fire.
If the sentence is to serve, then I'll serve. But not for you, not for the Corps, not even for the timelines themselves. I'll do it for them, the ones who stood beside me, the ones who fought when I faltered, the ones who still believe I can make this right. Time may be broken, but trust is harder to mend, and that starts with my team. So yes, I accept. I'll fight. I'll repair what was lost. Not because you command it, but because they deserve it. Because we deserve it. And when this year is done, the only thing I want to look back on is the truth that we stood together and made the universe whole again.
The Watchers' chorus rippled, distorted. Some voices hissed in disapproval. Others hummed with what might have been admiration. The glyph brightened, sealing the judgment. The barrier dissolved, and David turned toward his team. Mal gave the smallest of nods, a warrior's approval. Sarah smirked, though her eyes lingered on him with a new kind of respect. Nine muttered,
"Not in the script, but I'll allow it."
And Jojo, her lips parted, eyes bright, cheeks wet with relief. She smiled, not timidly, but wide, radiant. Anticipation burned in her, expectation, hope. She believed in him. For the first time, David believed in himself. The glyph dissolved into nothingness, the chamber dimming back into shadow. Before David could even step down from the dais, Jojo burst past the line that separated them, flinging herself into his arms. She collided with him so hard he staggered, her arms tightening around him with desperate strength. Her body pressed against his, trembling, her tears soaking into his jacket as though she meant to drown every doubt that lingered between them. One leg kicked up behind her, girlish and exuberant, like something out of a hollow romance. David stared down at her in shock. For a moment he could do nothing but hold her, caught in her warmth, her scent, her nearness. Their eyes met and clung together, in the seconds stretched into what felt like eternity. Then, slowly, she lowered her head back to his chest, her embrace softening, becoming less frantic, more tender, more real. He felt it in his chest, in his bones. There is something here. Jessica, the recruitment specialist, stood in the shadows of the observation gallery, unseen by most. She'd stayed behind when others filed out, telling herself it was to deliver notes, to observe protocol, but her eyes had never left David. She had planned to intercept him, planned the words even. "Captain, we should talk further. Off the record, there's more you deserve to know." Planned to let her poise slip, just enough for him to see her, not as recruiter, not as liaison, but as Jessica. But then Jojo's arms wrapped around him, and his around her. Jessica's lips pressed into a line. Her glasses caught the faint reflection of the chamber lights as she forced her gaze away. She wouldn't show it. Not here. Not now. She turned crisply, the soft click of her heels fading into the corridor. To anyone watching, she was the picture of composure, another officer leaving with business concluded. Only her pulse betrayed her, hammering in her throat with the words she would not say. The mess hall was unusually quiet. No trays clattering, no arguments over rations, no sarcastic comments bouncing from one end of the table to the other. Just the soft hum of the ship's life support and the low flicker of the overhead cycling down for the night shift. They sat in a loose circle, Jojo picking at the corner of her ration bar, Sarah with her boots up on the table like she dared anyone to tell her otherwise, Maul looming like a statue at the far end, and Nine perched stiffly, hands folded too neatly in his lap. No one spoke for a long while. The echo of the tribunal still clung to them. The watchers' voices, the judgment passed, David's absence. It felt like a weight pressing into the air. Jojo cleared her throat.
So?
She stretched the syllable into the silence, eyes darting between them.
I was thinking, maybe we should start planning Nine's wedding.
Sarah's eyes narrowed, the faintest smirk tucking her mouth.
Wedding?
Jojo nodded, deadpan.
Yeah, you know, Nine and Trink. They'd make the cutest couple. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a mech and a tech tied together in holy matrimony?
Nine froze. His ocular sensors blinked twice.
What? No, Trink and I are colleagues, professional associates. She only recalibrates my subroutines when necessary.
Is that what you kids are calling it these days?
Jojo grinned.
Uh-huh, sure. That's exactly what people say before they put a ring on it.
Mao's gravelly rumble joined in, deliberate and slow.
Would this be a traditional ceremony, or would vows be uploaded directly to this core memory?
Nine's servals clicked as his hands tightened.
There will be no uploading of vows. There will be no ceremony. There will be no...
Cake?
Jojo cut in, feigning horror.
Nine, what kind of monster doesn't have cake at their wedding?
Sarah leaned forward, sharp and lazy at the same time.
I'd volunteer as bridesmaid, just to see the look on his faceplate when Trink says I do.
I do not approve this scenario.
Nine's voice cracked upward in pitch. He shifted in his seat, as though his very casing couldn't contain him.
Trink is an engineer. I am an enforcement unit. Our association is entirely pragmatic. Romantic extrapolation is illogical.
Jojo stage whispered to Sar.
That means he's totally in love.
Nine's head swiveled with an audible whine.
I am not.
Even Mao, stone-faced as ever, allowed the corner of his mouth to twitch. For the first time since the tribunal, laughter flickered around the table. Small, sharp, but real. It cut through the heaviness like a spark in the dark. Nine groaned, optics dimming as if shutting them out would make the teasing stop.
I am filing a grievance with command.
Good luck with that.
Sarah said dryly.
Your captain has bigger problems than your love life.
Jojo softened, smile lingering as she leaned back in her chair.
Yeah. But for a second it felt normal again, didn't it?
Nobody answered, but the silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. Hours later, the Rangers were back in the conference room, where their journey had first begun, in those uncertain days of stiff introductions. The air was heavier now, though not without its curd's relief. Sarah lounged sideways in her chair, idly flicking a small blade across her teeth. Nine sat upright and silent, neat as always, the faintest glimmer of satisfaction in his metallic gaze. Mao leaned back, arms crossed, the stone-faced warrior whose eyes never left David. Zilch fiddled with the worn satchel he called Mother, muttering softly to himself. Jojo sprawled in her chair with one leg crossed over the other, her flip-flop dangling carelessly as she bounced her foot against the edge of the table. David stood before them all. For a long moment, he only looked at them, his silence louder than any speech. When he finally spoke, his voice creaked like an old hinge, but gained strength with every word.
Guys, I failed you.
The admission dropped heavily into the room.
I failed this mission. Worse, I failed each of you. You trusted me. You followed me into chaos. You believed in a vision I didn't deliver. That's on me.
He took a breath, eyes roaming the circle of faces.
But I believe in something now. Not in the core, not in the watchers. I believe in us. I believe this team can set things right. Not because we were ordered to, but because we're the ones who know what it costs. We're the ones who bled for it already. So, I'll ask once. If you'd rather I step down, say so now. If you'd rather another captain, another team, I'll walk away. But if you can forgive me, if you'll fight beside me again, then I swear I'll give you everything I've got. No hesitation, no second guessing, just us together against the chaos.
The room stayed silent for a heartbeat longer, And then Mal unfolded his arms. He dipped his head in the slow nod.
I follow strength. Tonight, you found yours. That's enough.
Sarah flicked her blade shut with a smirk.
Still an idiot, Klondike, but you're our idiot. I'll stay.
Nine tilted his head with a soft mechanical whir.
The probability of cohesion has increased by 72%. Acceptable parameters. Proceed, Captain.
Zilch didn't look up from his bag, stroking its frayed seams.
So long as Mother is safe, I am safe. And with you, she is. I will stay.
Jojo said nothing at all. She just grinned, her foot bouncing, the slap of her flip-flop faint in the hush. The heaviness lifted, shoulders eased. Smiles, real ones, returned. One by one, the Rangers left the room for their quarters. The promise of rest before tomorrow's first true assignment hanging in the air. When the last of them had gone, only Jojo remained. The silence stretched, and then, clap, clap, clap. She leaned back in her chair, applauding slowly.
Well, that was very captain-y of you.
David groaned. She rose before he could finish, her eyes locked on him with a playful intensity.
Truth is,
She said softly.
since the day they told me I was on your team, I've been scared. I don't have Mal's strength or Sarah's claws or Nine's whatever Nine has. Half the time I feel like an imposter, waiting to let everyone down. Waiting to let you down.
His shoulders softened.
Jojo, I picked you for a reason.
She slowly strode towards him, playfully, lips curved, teasing.
Oh? And what reason is that?
He froze. His mind screamed. Kiss her, but his mouth betrayed him. She is close to him now, inches away. She looks up at him with loving eyes. She places the palm of her hand on his chest. He instinctively puts his arm around her at the small of her back. He can feel her trembling as he draws her in, their breath now in sync, growing labored. He stops, looks at her closely, leans in and whispers quietly in her ear.
Because you're really good at making coffee.
Her jaw dropped. He grinned as he turned away, striding toward the door. She stared after him, stunned, her gaze trailing down his back.
Damn.
She thought.
Nice ass, jerk. Hey.
She called after him. He turned, a devilish grin tugging at his mouth. They stood like that for a long moment, eyes locked, hearts caught. Then David charged back across the floor, scooping her off her feet. She squealed in laughter as he spun her around, her arms tightening around his shoulders. When he set her down again, her toes brushed the cold deck plates, just long enough for him to capture her lips with his. It was deep, hungry, desperate, the kiss of a man who had finally found the courage to be both leader and lover. And Jojo kissed him, right back. The ship loomed vast and terrible, a husk of iron and fury adrift against the void. Its hull was torn open in half a dozen places, scarred from the clash that had gutted it. Fires still licked from ruptured bulkheads, coughing smoke into the cavernous bay. The landing deck, once a corridor of IPC precision, was unrecognizable. It was strewn with the butchered remains of mech soldiers, shattered plating, broken optics that still flickered faintly, limbs twisted into grotesque sculpture. Pools of hydraulic fluid mingled with blood, dripping in sluggish rivulets between scorched tiles. The stink of burnt circuitry, charred flesh, and ozone clung to every breath. The crew kept their distance, silent as shadows. They moved cautiously at the edges, dragging the wounded clear, extinguishing stubborn flames, their faces downcast. What remained of his soldiers limped through the wreckage, armor scorched and weapons bent. None dared speak. Their silence was heavier than screams. At the center of it all, the commander paced. He moved slowly, deliberately, boots crunching over slag steel and fragments of optics that once belonged to his own. His shadow stretched against the smoke, jagged, monstrous. With each step, his fury coiled tighter. He stopped. At his feet lay the torn shoulder plate of an IPC mech, scorched beyond function yet still bearing a half-melted insignia, the emblem of the Interdimensional Peace Corps, a symbol that once stood for protection, order, hope. Now, nothing but the trail. His lip curled. He ground the insignia beneath his heel until the metal shrieked against the deck.
Once you promised order,
he rasped, voice muffled through the helmet's breather unit.
Once you promised protection. You gave me nothing but ruin.
His voice rose, jagged with rage.
My team, my friends, my lover, myself, you took everything.
The silence of the bay seemed to recoil.
I will never lose again.
The words dripped venom, not oath. He spun, surveying what remained of his men. They met his gaze briefly, then looked away. The broken remnants of warriors, loyal still, but hollowed out by loss. He straightened, the fury crystallizing into something colder, sharper.
Fuck these bastards,
he snarled, his helmet's filters turning the curse into a metallic growl.
They'll pay for every inch they've stolen, for every scar they left.
His brute pressed harder into the insignia, grinding it until sparks spat against his greaves.
I'll show them,
he vowed, the words low, reverberating with something deeper than anger.
I'll show them. The Klondike curse.
No one breathed. Finally, he reached up. Fingers scraped across battered plating as he unsealed the locks of his battle helmet. With a hiss of escaping pressure, the breather disengaged. He lifted the visor free, slowly, deliberately. Firelight spilled across his face. One half was a ruin, scar tissue ridged and twisted, skin burned and healed into jagged terrain, an eye rimmed with pale scar lines, twitching with residual pain. But the other half, familiar, unmistakably so. It was David. Not the one the IPC had claimed. Not the man who kissed Jojo beneath the tribunal shadow. Not the captain trying to hold his fractured crew together. This one was harder, older, carved into something cruel by years of loss, betrayal, rage. His eyes locked forward, lit with a vow only he understood. And for the first time in what seemed like an eternity, perhaps since before the ruin, he smiled.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.